Welcome back to Podcast Infinity, where we give your brain a dose and help you grow smarter.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into the world of wolves.
Oh, wolves. Awesome.
You'll find all the sources that we are using for this deep dive, link in the description.
Right.
We're going to unpack some intriguing research on these often misunderstood creatures.
Yeah, they're really fascinating, aren't they?
And you might be surprised to learn that some of the most common beliefs about wolves are actually myths.
Yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions out there.
So to start off, let's talk about like the classic image of the lone wolf.
Okay.
Right? It's this idea that they're these solitary creatures roaming the wilderness.
Right, the lone wolf archetype, yeah.
But what does the research actually tell us about that?
Well, it turns out that the lone wolf image is it's more myth than reality.
Mm-hmm.
Studies have shown that only about 15% of wolves are actually solitary.
Oh, wow. That's a much smaller number than I would have guessed.
Yeah, most wolves actually live in packs.
Okay.
And these packs are really crucial to their survival.
I see. So why is that? Why are packs so important for them?
Well, being part of a pack allows wolves to hunt more effectively,
Right.
raise their pups, and defend their territory.
Right, this little community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And those lone wolves that we do see, they're usually the ones who have left their pack to try and establish their own territory and hopefully start a new pack.
So they're not necessarily like loners by choice.
Right. It's more like a biological imperative.
Yeah, it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've debunked the myth of the lone wolf.
Yeah.
But what about this idea of the alpha wolf?
The alpha wolf.
Right.
A classic misconception.
This image of like the dominant, aggressive leader who rules the pack through like brute force.
Yeah, you see that a lot in movies and stuff.
Right. But how much truth is there to that?
Well, not a whole lot, actually.
Okay.
The term alpha was actually coined from observations of captive wolves.
Captive wolf.
Where the social dynamics can be quite different from those in the wild.
Ah, I see. So it's sort of an artificial environment that might create those power struggles.
Right, exactly.
So if we're talking about wolves in their natural habitat, what does leadership actually look like?
It's a lot more nuanced.
Okay.
The leadership roles usually emerge from family bonds.
Oh, interesting. So it's more about lineage than like dominance through aggression.
Exactly. The breeding pair, the alpha male and female.
Yeah.
They guide the pack. But it's not about constant fighting or aggression.
So it's more about experience and maybe wisdom.
Right. It's about raising pups together.
Okay.
Leading the pack on hunts.
Making sure everyone survives.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this is painting a very different picture of wolf pack dynamics than what we often see portrayed.
Yeah, the reality is much more complex and fascinating.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder how much we still don't know about these creatures.
Absolutely. There's always more to learn.
Now, you mentioned earlier that there's a hierarchy within the pack.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more? Like, what does that structure look like?
Sure. So at the top, you have the alpha pair.
Yeah, the breeding pair.
Right. And then you have the beta wolves who are like second in command.
So they're sort of like the lieutenants.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then what about the rest of the pack?
Well, then you have the other pack members with the omega wolves, often at the bottom of the pecking order.
Omega wolves? What are those?
They're often the youngest or the most submissive members of the pack.
Okay, so there's a clear order, but it's not necessarily about constant power struggles.
Right. The hierarchy helps to maintain stability within the pack. Each wolf has a role to play, and the structure ensures the group's survival.
I see. It's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it's a fascinating system.
Okay, so we've talked about pack structure and debunked some myths about lone wolves and alpha wolves.
Yeah.
But this brings me to another question.
Okay.
You know, we sometimes hear these stories about children being raised by wolves.
Oh, yeah, the wolf children.
Are those stories true?
Well, there are indeed documented cases of so-called wolf children.
Wow, really?
Though they are rare.
I guess that makes sense.
These are children who, for various reasons, have ended up living with wolves and have adopted wolf-like behaviors.
It's incredible to think about what those children must have gone through.
Yeah, it's a fascinating phenomenon.
So what do these cases tell us about the nature of wolves?
Well, for one thing, it suggests that wolves are capable of forming strong attachments, even to individuals outside their species.
That's amazing.
And, you know, they sometimes raise the pups of other wolves within the pack.
Right.
So the capacity for caregiving extends beyond their immediate offspring.
So they're not just these cold, ruthless predators that we often imagine.
Not at all.
They have this capacity for empathy and connection.
Yeah, and it raises fascinating questions about the nature of nurture and the adaptability of both humans and animals.
So it challenges our understanding of what it means to be intelligent or sentient.
Absolutely. It blurs the lines a bit.
This is also fascinating.
Yeah, wolves are full of surprises.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about wolf communication.
Sure.
We all know about the iconic wolf howl.
Oh yeah, the classic howl.
But what other ways do they communicate with each other?
Well, howling is just one part of their complex communication system. They also use body language, scent marking, and even facial expressions.
Wow, really? Facial expressions?
Yeah, they're much more expressive than people realize.
I never would have thought of that.
It's fascinating to watch them interact.
So it's a whole symphony of signals.
It is. They convey a wide range of messages through these different methods.
Okay, so what kinds of information are they communicating?
Well, they can communicate about territory boundaries,
Okay.
potential threats, the location of prey, and even their emotional state.
So it's not just about survival, it's about social interaction as well.
Exactly.
I've-
Their communication is vital for coordinating hunts, maintaining pack cohesion, and avoiding conflicts.
So they're not just howling for the sake of howling, there's a purpose behind it.
Right, it's all about communication.
This has given me a whole new appreciation for the complexity of wolf behavior.
It really is remarkable when you start to delve into it.
Now, speaking of complexity, how intelligent would you say wolves are?
Oh, wolves are incredibly intelligent animals.
Okay.
They have to be to thrive in the wild.
I mean, their environment is pretty challenging.
Exactly. They need to problem solve, strategize, and adapt to changing conditions.
So how does their intelligence manifest itself? Like, can you give some examples?
Sure, you see it in their hunting techniques,
Okay.
their social interactions, and their ability to navigate complex landscapes.
Right. They have to remember where to find food, where to find water, where to avoid danger.
Exactly, they're constantly learning and adapting.
It's amazing how they can survive in such harsh conditions.
It's a testament to their intelligence and resilience.
Okay, well, I'm really eager to learn more about their hunting strategies.
Okay.
But I think we're going to have to save that for the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to cover.
So for now, we'll take a short break and be back soon to explore the fascinating world of wolf hunting techniques.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of wolves.
I'm ready to learn more.
Okay, great. So, we were talking about wolf intelligence and their social bonds.
Right, and those amazing stories of children raised by wolves.
Yeah, exactly. Those stories really make you think about the emotional capacity of these animals.
They do.
And, researchers have documented numerous instances of wolves exhibiting behaviors that strongly suggest they experience a range of complex emotions, including grief.
Grief? Like mourning the loss of a pack member.
Exactly.
Wow.
There have been observations of wolves exhibiting profound sadness and behavioral changes after the death of a close companion.
So, like, what kinds of changes?
Well, they might howl mournfully for days, lose their appetite. Oh, that's sad.
Or become withdrawn and listless.
It sounds like they really feel the loss.
It does seem that way.
It's amazing to think that they have such a deep capacity for emotion.
It really challenges our understanding of animal consciousness.
It does. And the depth of their social bonds?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if there are other aspects of their behavior that we're only beginning to understand.
Right, like we're just scratching the surface.
Exactly. Every new study seems to reveal another layer of complexity.
In their social interactions, communication, and problem-solving abilities.
Okay, so
Speaking of problem-solving, I'm curious to learn more about how wolf packs coordinate their hunts.
oh yeah, their hunting strategies are fascinating.
It seems like it would require a lot of strategy and communication to bring down large prey.
You're absolutely right. Hunting as a pack is a highly coordinated effort,
Okay,
and it relies on each wolf playing a specific role.
I see.
It's a true testament to their intelligence and social cohesion.
Okay, so can you give us an example of how that works in practice? Sure, take for example the technique called relay chasing.
Relay chasing.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
I've heard the term, but I don't really understand how it works.
Okay, so imagine a pack of wolves pursuing a large prey animal, like an elk or a moose.
Okay, got it.
Now, instead of chasing it relentlessly, they take turns.
Oh, interesting.
One wolf will chase the prey for a short distance at high speed, then another wolf will take over,
Okay.
and so on.
So they're basically wearing down the prey through a series of sprints.
Precisely. It's an incredibly efficient strategy.
That's so smart.
It allows them to conserve energy and increase their chances of success.
Especially when hunting large and enduring prey.
Exactly.
It's like they've developed their own form of marathon running.
Yeah, you could say that.
But how do they decide who chases when?
That's a great question.
It seems like it would require a lot of communication to pull that off.
It does. They use a combination of vocalizations,
Great.
body language, and even scent marking.
Wow, so they're communicating on multiple levels.
Yeah, to coordinate their movements and communicate their intentions.
So it's not just about physical prowess, but also about strategic thinking and teamwork.
You got it. It's this combination of physical adaptations, intelligence, and social complexity that makes wolves such formidable predators.
It really is remarkable.
It is.
Now, earlier you mentioned that there are over 40 subspecies of gray wolves.
Right.
Can you tell us a bit more about the diversity within the wolf species?
Sure. The gray wolf is an incredibly adaptable species.
Okay.
And it's evolved to thrive in a wide range of habitats, from the Arctic tundra to temperate forests and even deserts.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive range.
It is. And each subspecies has unique adaptations and characteristics that allow it to succeed in its particular environment.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of wolf.
Nope, not at all.
Cool. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. For example, the Arctic wolf, as you might expect, has a thick white coat that provides insulation in frigid temperatures and helps it blend in with the snowy landscape.
That makes sense.
On the other hand, the Arabian wolf, found in the Arabian Peninsula, is much smaller and has a thinner, sandy-colored coat that helps it cope with the heat and arid conditions.
So they've adapted to completely different extremes.
Exactly. It's a testament to their resilience as a species.
It is. But unfortunately, despite their adaptability, many wolf populations face threats from habitat loss, human conflict, and extermination campaigns.
Sadly, that's true.
It's a sobering reminder of the impact we have on the natural world.
It is.
But you mentioned earlier that there are encouraging signs of progress in wolf conservation.
Right. There's growing awareness of the ecological importance of wolves and the need to find ways to coexist with them.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, conservation efforts, public awareness campaigns, and a growing understanding of wolf behavior are helping to turn the tide in some areas.
That's encouraging. But how do you change people's perceptions of wolves, especially in areas where there's been historical conflict over livestock?
That's a big challenge, but I think education is key.
Education.
Yeah, by learning about wolf behavior and their role in ecosystems, people can begin to see them not just as threats, but as valuable members of the natural community.
So knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly. And there are also practical solutions that can help to mitigate conflict and promote coexistence.
Like what kinds of solutions?
Well, for example, some ranchers are using livestock guarding dogs.
Livestock guarding dogs.
Yeah, they're specially trained to protect livestock from predators, including wolves.
Oh, interesting.
So the dogs act as a sort of deterrent.
Okay, so they can scare the wolves away without harming them.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation because it protects the livestock while also allowing wolves to coexist in the area.
That's a clever solution. Are there any other strategies that have proven effective?
Yeah, another approach is to compensate ranchers for livestock losses due to wolf predation.
Interesting.
This can help to alleviate some of the economic burdens associated with living in wolf country.
Right, it's about sharing the costs and benefits.
Exactly. And in some areas, there are programs that help ranchers implement non-lethal deterrents.
Like what?
Things like flashing lights or noisemaker.
Oh, okay.
To scare wolves away from livestock.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Right, using a variety of strategies to reduce conflict.
This is great. It sounds like there's a growing toolkit of strategies for promoting coexistence.
Yeah, there is. And as our understanding of wolf behavior and ecology improves, we're likely to develop even more effective and innovative approaches.
I hope so. This has been incredibly enlightening, but I think we need to pause here for a moment.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground in the second part.
Yeah.
From the emotional intelligence of wolves to their remarkable hunting strategies.
Right.
The diversity within the wolf species and the promising developments in wolf conservation.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So in the final part of our deep dive, we'll delve even deeper into the complexities of the human-wolf relationship.
Okay.
And explore the future of these magnificent creatures.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of wolves. We've covered so much ground already, from their complex social structures and hunting techniques to the emotional depth they display. Now, I'm really interested in this whole idea of coexistence. How can we, humans and wolves, learn to share the landscape more effectively?
That's the question, isn't it? It's a question that's challenged us for centuries, really. But I do believe that by understanding wolf behavior, and recognizing their ecological importance, we can start to shift our perspective and find ways to coexist.
You mentioned earlier that education is key. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Sure. One of the biggest hurdles we face is overcoming the negative stereotypes and misconceptions about wolves.
Right.
A lot of people still see them as dangerous predators, a threat to livestock, and even humans. But honestly, Wolf attacks on humans are incredibly rare.
So those fears are largely unfounded.
Yeah, pretty much. Of course, it's always smart to be cautious and respectful of any wild animal. But wolves are generally more afraid of us than we are of them.
That makes sense. But even if we get past those fears, there's still the issue of livestock predation. How can we address that concern and find ways to protect both livestock and wolves?
Well, that's where those practical solutions we were talking about before come in. Livestock guarding dogs, for example, have proven to be really effective in deterring wolves and preventing conflicts.
So it's about finding ways to live alongside wolves without necessarily eliminating them from the landscape.
Exactly. And it's not just about livestock protection either, you know? We need to recognize the crucial role wolves play in maintaining healthy ecosystems.
I remember you mentioning that wolves are apex predators and that they help to regulate prey populations. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Of course. When wolves are present in an ecosystem, they help keep herbivore populations in check, right? Without wolves, those populations can just explode, which leads to overgrazing and habitat degradation.
So it's a domino effect.
Exactly. The absence of wolves can have these cascading effects throughout the food web, ultimately impacting plant diversity, soil health, even water quality.
Wow, that's incredible. I had no idea that wolves played such a vital role in keeping things in balance.
They do. And the more we understand about these ecological connections, the more we can appreciate how important it is to protect wolves and their habitats.
Now, you were saying earlier that there are some encouraging signs of progress in wolf conservation. Could you give us some examples of successful coexistence strategies?
Sure. So in Yellowstone National Park, for example, the reintroduction of wolves in the 1990s has had a really remarkable positive impact on the ecosystem.
Oh, wow.
It's helped restore balance to the elk population, you see, leading to more vegetation and even changes in river flow.
So the return of the wolves has actually revitalized the entire park.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's a testament to nature, you know, how it can heal itself when given the chance.
That's incredibly inspiring. Are there other examples of successful wolf conservation efforts?
Yes, definitely. In Europe, several countries have implemented these successful wolf management plans that focus on coexistence. They've set up protected areas, compensated farmers for livestock losses, and they've even started educational programs to promote, tolerance and understanding of wolves.
It sounds like there's a growing recognition that we can share the planet with wolves and other wildlife if we're willing to adapt and find creative solutions.
That's what I believe, yeah. It requires, I think, a shift in mindset, from seeing wolves as a problem to be solved to recognizing them as valuable members of the natural community.
This whole deep dive has been eye-opening, really. It's challenged my assumptions about wolves and made me realize how much we still have to learn about these amazing creatures. As we wrap up this episode, I'm left with a sense of hope that we can find ways to coexist and ensure the survival of wolves for generations to come.
I agree. And it's a reminder that our choices matter, and that we have a responsibility to protect the natural world, not just for our own good, for the good of all living things.
Well said. This has been an incredible journey into the world of wolves. And for our listeners who want to delve even deeper, don't forget to check out the resources we've linked in the description.
There's a ton of great information out there.
This is Podcast Infinity signing off.